Hi, this is Rita West with an episode of The Ramblings of a Redheaded Stepchild. You know, I'm not redheaded today, but I am redheaded, so so it'll always be the redheaded stepchild. But anyway, so this is kind of a special episode. Um, it, it's been a little bit in the making. I have a couple things different things going on. Okay, I've kind of gotten to a point in life where life has been shifting around. I don't power lift anymore. I'm doing the bodybuilding thing. I have different goals than I used to have. Things that were kind of important to me before. It's not that they're not important, but they maybe aren't as much of a focus anymore as they used to be. And in getting older, I have kind of gotten a little more focused on myself. Kind of like wanting to learn more about myself. I've spent a lot of years of my life um, for other people. And not saying that that was a bad thing, kids, a partner, my gym members, fans, my sponsors, and none of that's a bad thing. But, and I'm not saying that, you don't know who you are, but um, because the person that I am was the kind of person who wanted to live up to certain responsibilities, who wanted to make the people that looked up to me proud. Um, and so, I mean, I still have people that look up to me and I still want to help people. That's very important to me. But I am also focusing more on kind of like a journey in myself, and I have come to find a few things that led me to a much broader insight. I don't know I don't know what the word I'm thinking of is, but um, and I'm trying to explore that. So I have something in my teeth. um, so one of the things that I've always said about myself, right, is that I do pretty much what I want to do, regardless of what other people think. And I think that's to a certain degree. Everybody on the earth does things for other people also. It does care to some degree about what other people think for whatever reason. You care what your husband or your wife thinks. You care what your kids think. You care what your mom thinks. You know what I mean? You do care. But just talking in general, when you're talking about making decisions about your life and what you want to do and your goals that you have, you can't live all of every aspect of your life according to what you think other people expect from you, or what other people think are the right or wrong things to do, things like that. um but in finding that for myself, I have come to find that that is a much deeper thing than you would expect, right? um Something that you need to like literally wrap your head around. Okay. I was just interviewed a couple of days ago, actually, by a couple of kids from SU, and she had asked me about that, and it just popped out of my mouth, and I never really realized that I thought it until it like tumbled out my mouth to explain it to this young lady. That you take a successful woman, and I'm gonna say woman, I'm gonna say woman anyway. You take a successful woman. She's an executive in her office, or whatever she worked hard to get where she was, and she's accomplished a lot, right? She's successful. And more often than not, you'll still find that even that accomplished, confident woman still cares very much what people think about her, still worries about what people think about her. She wants to work hard so that her boss realizes she's just as good as her male counterparts. She's worried about having to work harder so that she's not overlooked for a raise or promotion or whatever. So even a successful woman who has what she set out to get still, more, like I said, more often than not, is still, actually concerned about what other people think. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. It kind of depends on what your goals are. I mean, if you have goals within a certain company, I mean, those are things that you need to think about, okay? But what I'm saying for my own like self-exploration is that I came upon that, and I didn't describe it into words until I told this girl but that's what I've been exploring, you know, is it's kind of like, okay, this is what I want to do, but why do I want to do it? Do I want to do it because it makes, you know, so I like doing things because it helps other people, right? Well, do I, so why do that? You know what I mean? Like, do I like helping other people? Does helping other people actually help me? I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like this weird intertwined thing that you kind of like trying to peel away all these layers, like meditation or something. You're trying to peel all these layers away to like get to the real base understanding of yourself, and that's what I'm working towards. Okay, so being able to do things and honestly not care what anybody thinks about it. But am I doing it just to do it because people, you know, just for shock value, or am I doing it because I want to do it because I want to do it? So that's what I'm trying to like take one step at a time, and if this is something that I want to do at this time, then I go and do it, right? But even further than that, because I've kind of done that all my life, what I what I have also realized that I need to wrap my own head around is that that's going to change, and that's okay. Okay. Just talking to somebody the other day about this other subject, and where I used to, I remember, so when I first started with Old Hercules, I had this thing about girls taking pictures of their back without their sport bra on. And I used to lecture them up and down. I mean, I'd go on. I say go off. I mean, I would lecture, you know, and I would say, oh, all anybody's thinking of is the fact that you have your no shirt on. Why do you need to have no shirt on to take a picture of your back? Blah, 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 blah. And now look at me now, right? I'm like flashing my ass all over Instagram. I'm doing adult work, you know what I mean? And, um, and so I take that now, and of course, you know, everybody goes through that. You know, that's what life is about. Life is about learning things as you go, and hopefully, you know, that culminates into, you know, becoming a more mature person, wise, and better able to kind of like lead the people coming behind you, right? But that's what I'm working on for myself, right? So one of the things that I have come to realize is that this is what I may think right now, and that might change, and that doesn't mean it was wrong when I was thinking it, and it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong later on. Oh, it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong later on down the road. Um, but I mean, you could also make the argument that, you know, well, I want to, you know, cheat on my husband right now. That's what I want to do. And that's not a good thing. You know what I mean? So I'm not just, so please don't try to, you know, like spin my words or anything. I'm talking about, you know, just learning myself and knowing that things change and what I want right now, and thinking to myself and actually doing the things that I want to do, which might be one thing today. And I have these goals in my head, right? But they're basically just a guideline, and that things might happen that make things change along the way, or, you know, may spin me off in a whole different direction, and all of that is okay. So in trying to figure these things out for myself, I have one of the things that I have tried to do just for me personally, and I do suggest that other people try it too, but what I started doing with myself is I started seeking out to do things that were uncomfortable to me. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to experience life. I wanted to go do things and not be embarrassed by them. I wanted to be the kind of person who could tell stories about my past or about things I've done, and not and never skip a beat, you know. I don't care what it was that I did, you know what I mean? I just tell the story and ha ha ha, that's it, you know. And not be embarrassed and not be worried that people think I was weird or that people think it was like, you know, ridiculous or whatever. So the very first thing that I ever did with this in mind. So I had a friend who wanted to go to a swinger party, and she wanted to go, but then the person she was supposed to go with backed out, and so she asked me. And I was like, okay, you know, and at the time I was like, oh my God, you know, a swinger party. I had an idea of like a picture in my head of these things, you know, from like you might see on TV or the internet or whatever. And it was like crazy. And plus I don't like parties. I don't like people. and, um, and so I went through all the stuff I had to do because you had to like be a part of the club to go and all this kind of stuff. And so I applied for that, and I got into the club, become a member or whatever. And then my friend backed out. It's like, what the hell, you know? But I went anyway. So I went because the whole thing was very uncomfortable to me. The whole thing about, first of all, going to a party even with other people is kind of an uncomfortable thing for me. But going all by myself was extremely uncomfortable. I knew nobody there. Well, it turns out I knew the owners of the club. I didn't expect them to be the people that they were. They happened to be people I know, but they were the only people there that I knew, you know. And so I had to like talk to people that I didn't know, and not only that, but you know, I mean, people weren't having sex in the middle of the floor, but there, you know, was that it was a sexual environment in which is can be inherently uncomfortable to begin with, right? With especially with strangers or whatever. So the whole thing is very uncomfortable, and I wouldn't say that I had fun exactly, but I made it through the night. I drank a little too much because I was nervous, but didn't do anything too crazy, so I did that. And then that actually spurred something. You know, I made friends, and I actually went to a couple of parties. I never really participated. I got flogged a couple times. That was kind of fun, but I didn't really participate much. I really still just am not comfortable in big social gathering situations, and I still don't know a lot of people, and I'm not good at small talk with strangers and stuff like that. So, but it did, you know, kind of like introduce me to some new things and push me down a road that kind of put me in the place where I am now, making good money actually. So, you know, so that was interesting. So that's what started it all, though. And then from there, I continued to, as I, you know, came to splits in the road or decisions to make, however you want to word it, right? I would purposely push myself into directions that were uncomfortable and unfamiliar because I wanted to experience life. I wanted to figure out things about myself that I didn't already know. I wanted to make myself experience things because you never know until you try. And you know, and I would suggest anybody do that. Um, so along with that, I've always been kind of open about my steroid use through powerlifting. And the reason being because when I first started, I mean, there was a couple of women I could talk to. One, I knew she was being absolutely honest. Another one, I don't know if she was completely honest with me, but that was a thing back then, you know. I mean, even now, but still, you know, so it was even worse back then, you know. Women just didn't really talk about that kind of stuff. It was still kind of embarrassing. It was, I don't know if cheating is the right word, but you know, you were kind of embarrassed that you were taking these male hormones and substances, whatever, and especially if you started getting the side effects and everything, right? Um, so there weren't a lot of women to talk to, and most of the advice I got was from men, which wasn't always the greatest. And so as I came up, it was important to me to be there for other women. And not to say I have all the answers, certainly not, but I wanted to offer my experience, my honest experience, and what I knew about myself and what I knew, you know, from other people that I had met along the way. And because women need to be able, I mean, this is this very, very serious thing for women, and women have to have the right tools to make those decisions. I'm not saying they shouldn't make those decisions. They have every right to make that decision, and they should be allowed to make that decision. But they have to have the right tools to make those decisions. You know, the facts, and so that was important to me. And especially with the fact that, you know, a lot of times steroids, the steroids are made with the wrong powders because it's so much cheaper. So for example, Anavar a lot of times is it's sold as Anavar. They'll charge the Anavar price, but it's actually D-ball, and because D-ball is much cheaper, so they'll buy, you know, so a not so trustworthy dude will buy D-ball, package it up, and sell it as Anavar. And if a woman were to take that, she's going to get side effects a lot faster and maybe irreversible before she knows what's going on. And that's a fucking shame. You know, that should not ever happen. And so anyway, my thing was that I really wanted to be out there to help women coming up in the sport who, you know, make sure that they knew that I was at least one person, somebody that they could come to and ask any questions they might have. And that, you know, in my own personal steroid use, I mean, you know, so I used steroids very, very heavily early on. And, you know, like I said, I didn't really have advice to go on except for guys, and I kind of got, suggested a little bit heavier maybe than I should have. But then after that, even on my own choice, I went heavier. And so I did, I had certain side effects that showed up quick. My voice changed and things like that. Um, the facial hair, that was, I'm a very lucky person. I have light colored body hair, so it wasn't as big a deal for me, and maybe I didn't even realize what was going on so much for a little longer than some women, but it'll show up quick on some women with the dark hair. Um, uh, I think that of all the things that have ever happened to me, my hair thinning out, losing my hair, was the worst. Now, if I had to do it all over again, if I had to do it all over again and it had to happen the exact same way in order to get the same results that I got, to get where I was in powerlifting, to be number one, to do what I did, I would do it over again. Okay, so in that sense, it's not that I don't regret it, but if I could have, but there are things that I know now that may have helped save my hair, and if I were able to go back and do those things instead, I certainly would have. You know what I mean? But that's also me personally. Now, I would think that that's a very serious thing for a woman to lose her hair, So I'm sure that there are plenty of women out there who thought, hey, if that's going to happen to me, I don't want to go down that road. And so it took a long time for my hair to get that bad. But once it was to the point where I had to start wearing wigs, I didn't say anything for a little while. It was kind of obvious to some people that knew me really well. But then eventually, I think that it was obvious. I think it was obvious. And then I started so at one point I was just like, that was another thing that was uncomfortable for me to talk about. But I thought it was important, and so I started talking about the fact that I wore wigs, and these were side effects of steroids, and I went through them, and they were something that I deal with on a daily basis, right? And so I was always open about that. So that again is part of my desire to help other people, women specifically, right? So hopping back over to my own inner education, whatever, self-education. The things that I was personally going through as that happened. The hair loss thing, it was expensive for me because what I used to use I call it a topper, they call it a system. I call it a lady toupee is basically what it was. And it glued down to my hair, so I could swim in it, I could shower in it, I could do whatever I wanted. And but it was expensive, and we're talking like a couple thousand a year, plus you were supposed to go back every 6 months to get it put on or taken off and put back on and clean and do all this, and that was expensive. So I started taking care of it as much as I could, but the point is that this got expensive, and it wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to keep spending the money on. But it's like, well, what do you do? I think the hair loss thing is probably hair, period. Either the hair adding on to the face and the hair coming off the head. Two very big things for women, right? It's it's probably the biggest impacts to our femininity, and so it was hard to let go, so my hair, even under my wigs and stuff, continued to thin out. And especially if I didn't have the one that was glued on, I was very nervous, that something might happen. Someone pulled my hair just right and the wig would come off or whatever, and I didn't want anyone to see what I looked like underneath my wig. And so it was something that I personally struggled with for a long time, and it was a pain in the ass, and it looked stupid. I hated how I looked, how thin my hair had gotten, and it's male pattern baldness, so pretty much there's no hair on the top, and then my hair was long, so my hair was like long all down here. I looked like some kind of really weird dude, but it was all shaved on the sides. I actually have hair on the sides too, but I shaved that, because that's that hairstyle I do. So, but it continued to get thinner and thinner, and so part of my own, so that was something that I was dealing with. But then, in that search for acceptance of self and finding that, calm, peaceful place in myself, where I can do what I want regardless of what anyone else thinks, right? So on one hand, I mean, this isn't what other people. I wasn't just worried about other people think. I didn't like it. I didn't like seeing myself with my hair like that. I wanted to see the wigs or my topper on or whatever. But it was also such a fucking pain in the ass sometimes. And so very recently I've been thinking more and more about just shaving the rest of my hair off. And but it's like, because to be honest, I feel like without hair, without makeup, and my hair not on, and no makeup, and just the way my body, because I'm not only am I muscular, I'm very blocky, so I do have, I think, I mean, I know I have the feminine look still, blah 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 blah, whatever, but there is a very, thick masculine look to me. And so without my makeup and my hair, it was worse. And I was just like, I can't even imagine walking around in front of people like that. I couldn't imagine it. But very recently, I just have been thinking more and more about shaving it off, and then I decided, okay, I decided to do it. And I think that I saw something online, actually. I think it was a bunch of bodybuilding women, and one of them, she was bald. And I was just like, you know what? I said, there was a couple things going on. So part of me felt kind of guilty, actually, because it's like, there's women with cancer. There's women out there that have no hair, and they never had a choice. It was never a choice. It wasn't because of something they did. They lost their hair, and they do just fine. They live life, and they're beautiful women. And so stop being so, I don't know what the word is, where you care about what you look. Not conceited, yeah. But so there was that part to it. But then there was also, I was thinking to myself, okay, it's one thing for me to be honest with people and tell them what I'm going through, but if I'm really being honest, why don't I let them see it? If I really don't care what people think, and I'm really trying to be honest with women, people in general, then why not let them see what you look like? And then there's another part of me that's like, for the love of God, for Christ's sake, I don't have to share every fucking personal second of my life with everybody, and in bottom line, that is absolutely true. Okay, you do not have to share all your personal things, all the personal parts of your life with people to be a helpful person. You know what I mean? I personally choose to be very open with a lot of things because I feel like I'm in a position to be helpful. I feel like people look up to me. I feel like, for whatever reason, whether you find me motivational or inspirational or just a leader or intelligent or whatever, for whatever reason, people listen to me. And I think that gives me a power to to make an impact. And so hopefully I'm putting positive things, I'm having a positive impact, and I'm helping and trying to use my powers for good. And so I kind of feel obligated, because I am a strong-willed person. I'm a strong personality, and I don't care so much about the negative shit that comes at me from people. So I kind of feel obligated to be that person that stands up and shows everybody, listen, you can be a strong woman, and look at these people are saying all this shit, and it doesn't even bother me, and I'm still doing what I want to do, and I'm still happy, and you can do it too. So for the last couple of days, I was kind of struggling a little bit with how I wanted to handle this, because, to be honest, I was thinking, let's just do it online. Let's just tape the whole thing and put it right out there for everyone to see. And but that's a scary thought, And so I thought about it for a couple of days, and in the end, when I thought about the different ways I could do things and the different not outcomes, but like, the actions that I would be taking, I just kept coming back to, that is what I wanted to do. And so that is what I did. And so this episode is actually a really special one, because it meant a couple things to me. It was a very personal self-learning, self-education, a self-acceptance thing, but I also think that it will make a big impact on other women who are considering steroids, already in steroids, but are, kind of like not sure how far they might be willing to go with them. So it's kind of like, this could be you. This is what steroids does. And it doesn't happen to everybody too. I mean, I want to make that point. It's male pattern baldness. So if that isn't an issue in your family, you may not get those same side effects, or not as bad, or whatever, you know what I mean? But it is possible, and then who knows? I mean, maybe I took way more than somebody else, like the less you take, of course, the longer you can go without those side effects, or maybe the worse they won't be quite as bad, or whatever. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me about my theories on how I could have maybe saved my hair, or saved it enough, I'd be happy to talk to people about that. It's actually with Propecia is what I'm talking about, but let's do it another time, because this is already going to be long enough. Talk about, basically, you need to understand the life cycle of the hair, and what is causing the hair to fall out. I think it's DHEA or DHT that collects around the follicles, and that's what makes it fall out. And the Propecia can help it, but Propecia is also extremely dangerous for women to be taking, especially if you plan on getting pregnant. So it's a discussion to have, but would love to have it with any female that has that question, or that wants to talk about it with me, or I could even maybe do another episode that talks in detail about that kind of stuff. But but what this is about is, so my own self stuff, and then kind of like putting it out there, not just talking about it, but let's I'm all in. I went all in today. I'm all in for you. And I'm putting it all out there on the table for everybody to see, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with it. So let's get started with that, right? And we're going to go through the actual process. I went out to Supercuts. We're going to Supercuts, and we're going to talk to the hairdresser, go through the stuff. I am going to spend the rest of the day walking around like that, because I think that is important to me. To me personally, that's not really a statement for anybody else. That is just something that I feel I need to do, to accept what I am going to do with myself, and be okay with it, and kind of like come to terms with it, and put it out there, and be okay with putting it out there. So I need to do that for myself, and then we'll talk about it some more. So I hope that you find this informational, and that you enjoy sharing this with me. So I am here with Becky Pierotti. She's going to record for me, because I'm going to just shave off the rest of my hair. We're at Supercuts. Hold on. So I'm kind of like more known in I'm kind of well known in powerlifting and bodybuilding, and been open about steroid use for a long time. Okay. And so my own hair has been very, very thin for a long time, and it's something I'm open about. But I have decided to come in and just shave off the rest of my hair, and so I'm doing a thing for other women who are coming out on steroids, all this kind of stuff, and actually this is. I'm just, personally just a little bit nervous, because this is actually going to be the first time anyone in public has ever even seen me without my wigs and stuff, and so.
This is a great wig, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I like it.
Thank you. Okay, so.
So we're going to just take the rest of it off? Do you want to go down to as close to skin as I can possibly do? Okay. You got it.
Yeah, I was telling, because a couple of people I've told to, this is Becky, by the way.
Hi, Becky.
And so I was, yeah. never mind. I'm not even going to go to that. But anyway, so.
Well, you'd be able to see your tattoos, though.
Yes, I know.
There
See,
you
it was kind
go.
of
I just
important. So
noticed.
one of the reasons why I was keeping the hair in the first place is because one of my wigs is like, I call it my topper, but it's one that I go to Genesis for, you know.
Oh, okay.
And that one gets glued on, but I have it made so that it goes like this. You can see the sleeve side.
Oh, kind of like have like an undercut. So it kind of looks like
yeah.
That's cool.
And so, but that thing needs to have some hair to glue to. But then just over time, this, my hair that I do let grow has just gotten so thin now that I look like a, what do you call it, a survivor from like a radioactive fallout or something.
Oh,
so I'm like,
goodness.
all right, this just needs to come off.
All right.
It's just.
So as close to skin as I can go?
Yes, please.
Okay, you got it. I unfortunately just had to do something, we got a little bit of glue.
Yeah, the glue.
That's okay, I'm trying not to hurt you.
You're not gonna hurt me. Just take it out. There's
One-
nothing you can do to my head that my mother didn't do when I was a child.
Yeah, one of my regulars, she unfortunately is battling cancer, and I just shaved her hair last week, so. First we cut like shoulder length, and then she called me again, she's like, it's just falling out like at a rapid pace, so. And we're cutting all this stuff off too, right?
Yes, it's all just.
Whole shebangy bang.
And that's actually kind of one of the things that I was thinking about the other day. It was like, I think that it's a hard thing for women. Our hair is very, it's a big part of being a woman, right? And so trying to hold on to any bit of it, I think has been kind of a bigger deal for me. Even though I wear wigs over it, it was still like,
Beat me up on the inside kind of thing?
yeah, just like the thought of all of it coming off was like traumatic. But I was thinking that the other day, it's about like people who have no choice, going through cancer or just, what is it, the alopecia or however you pronounce it?
Alopecia.
Yes, alopecia. And I was like, you know what? Not that I'll ever, it's not like I want to walk around all the time without my wigs, but if I do not have a wig on, I would rather be bald than look like this.
Right,
So.
right. How long have you been like bodybuilding for?
Bodybuilding for about 4 years.
It's not that long that you've been doing it.
Well, I was a powerlifter for 14.
Gotcha.
And I would say I started the steroids probably, this is what, 2010, so about 17 years ago. It was around
So you started doing
2012. Yeah. No, not 17 years. It was 2012. So it's been a long time, and I think that women. I personally, when I started, it still is a very not like largely talked about thing among women. And in bodybuilding or powerlifting, about steroid use. And so when I started, it was even worse though, and I really didn't have anybody to ask a lot of questions, and so I've always made myself a little more available to women to kind of just talk about, like my opinion, what I've gone through, what did I try, and the side effects, because, me personally went a little more to the extreme, and I think that's important for women to understand, that, their choices come with consequences.
I was kind of the same way when I went through infertility treatment, because it's kind of like a taboo subject.
Really?
So, because some people feel ashamed to talk about it, and I get people in here all the time that they'll voice, oh, my wife's having trouble, or whatever, and then I'll just go into my spiel, and because I almost kind of feel like because I went through it, I can be an advocate to other people that went through it.
Exactly.
Because it's not some people they won't talk to anybody about it. They're almost ashamed to talk about it, and I'm but it's such a common thing, but it's so taboo to everybody. So I just try to normalize it in a way, because it's just because you think you're different, you would be surprised how many people go through the same thing you do. They're just quiet about it.
Exactly. If one person has a question, there's 100 that have the same question. And you're right, too many people are afraid to just open their mouths and ask. And so, for something like that, though, I was never really thought about that. Are they ashamed because they feel like they shouldn't need help to get pregnant? Is that what it is?
It's almost like a pride thing, and then it's also when you go through fertility, you're angry at yourself, because the one thing you're designed to do, you can't do, on your own without help. And some people are kind of ashamed of that. And when I went through it, I was just I'm gonna be super transparent about it, and I'm just gonna you know, be open about it, because if anybody has any questions, you know, I'd be happy to answer them. And then one of my friends ended up having to go through the same exact thing, and luckily I went through all of it, and I was able to kind of coach her through, like, well, this is what this exam's gonna feel like, this is like what this medication might do to you know, and then that way she wasn't as like nervous, and like she would text me questions all the time, like, is this normal, did this happen to you, you know, stuff, because she didn't have anybody else to really like, talk to about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just tried to be helpful.
Yeah.
And now next month I'm going to be getting weight loss surgery, so that's another thing I'm going to be more open about. So those people have questions about it and they want to do it, like they can come and talk to me about it if they want to. So.
Oh, very good. Did you? Oh, is this your baby girl?
It is.
It
It took a while to get her, but I finally got it.
Do you guys plan to try for any more children?
I'm older than I look. I really wanted to have two, but like we did spend like so much money just for like her. And daycare is super expensive.
Oh yeah.
I would love to have another one, and if my husband and I are kind of like, if it happens, it happens. Like if it's natural,
Yeah.
like he doesn't really want to go through the fertility stuff again. But I always wanted a girl, and I always wanted to name her Adelina, and that's what I got, and I'm perfectly content with that.
Well, it might be funny to know that some of the stuff that people use, like, you know, the steroid, it's not a steroid, but the steroid stuff that people use for powerlifting and bodybuilding is HCG and Letro, so.
Oh!
Is Letro the other one that you guys use? Not Letro, we use something else though that we were like, oh, okay, we do that.
Oh, I don't even know.
I forget what the other one was. Yeah, I tried to make sure it was all out.
Oh, you're okay. Did I bet that head one, the tattoo hurt, right?
It did not hurt as bad as you would think. You know?
Really?
And I was nervous because I've seen like grown ass men sweating in a tattoo chair. So after I got it, all I could think of was like, oh my god, they're such babies.
Oh yeah. When I got my shoulder done, it was funny because my husband's friend was like the piercing artist at the tattoo shop that I went to. And he comes over to me and he was just like, hey, he's like, how you doing? How you holding up? And I'm like fine. Like, it really wasn't bad at all. And he was like, oh my god, when I got my shoulders laid down, he was like, it shot all the way down to like my legs. And I'm like,
oh my god.
I'm like, I don't know, I guess I tolerate pain for a while. I was just straight chilling with that one. I could like live in a tattoo shop and not be bored though. I love tattoos.
Yeah.
My husband's covered in them. So. He's got full sleeves, chest piece, back piece, got his legs covered.
Is Gina back yet?
She will be back April 17th. So she comes back, I see her for a week, and then I go out for 2 weeks for my surgery.
Oh.
Then I'll be back, and then I'll be back.
So you're only out for 2 weeks?
Just 2 weeks.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm happy about that.
See, as long as my eyelashes are done, it looks okay.
There was this little girl, what's her name? I think it was like Talia, I think her name was. She was on like diet and stuff like that. And unfortunately, she was this little girl that she had cancer. And she actually chose to not wear wigs. And she went on this, YouTube, whatever, and stuff. And she did all these like makeup tutorials. And she used her makeup as her wig. And she did gorgeous makeup. And this girl was only like, I don't know, 12. Like she was like so incredibly talented for her age. And they actually put her on like the cover of she became a CoverGirl spokesperson for like a little bit and stuff like that. Like, unfortunately, she ended up passing away. But she used makeup as her wig. And she was like, I don't want to wear a wig. She's like, I'm gonna embrace my bald head. And she was just like such an inspirational little girl. I was just like, who is this kid? Like, she's just awesome. Like, she just had so much confidence in herself to do that. And like, I love that.
You know, kids are awesome for that too, because I mean, yes, kids can be self-conscious when other kids are making fun of them or whatever. I mean, in some ways they're fragile, sure, but they don't have unless they've experienced it really, they don't have that fear of what everybody's gonna think of them yet, you know what I mean? And so they come out with the most awesome things, and they put so much more into it than some people, some whole adults would, you know?
There was a little girl in here one time, and she was saying, I don't know, there was these kids that were bullying her or whatever, and she had the best attitude. She goes, they're just jealous. She goes, it's fine. She was probably like, I don't know, 6. I was like, that's right. I was like, don't let them get you down. I thought it was so cute. Where do you get most of your artwork done?
You know, it's kind of shifted. I kind of find an artist and I stay with them until they're not around anymore. Chris from Halo did a bunch.
Okay.
Right now I'm with Penny out at King's Head.
Which King's Head?
It's in Lincourt area.
Oh, okay.
Court Street, Lincourt there.
Oh yeah, I know Court Street. Okay.
Right there at the end of TO.
Oh, okay, I think I know where it is. Yeah.
I know there was someone else too. Colleen, she used to do my piercings. I forget what it was.
I'll put a little, like, something on my head just to hide it. On the bright side, you have a really good shaped head.
Thank you. I know, right? Because that's always a toss-up too. I'm gonna go tan after this and
There
start
you go.
fixing that. And now I have a reason to tattoo the rest of my head, I guess.
There you go. What do you think you put on it?
I don't know.
Just gonna grab your warm towel real quick.
Am I freaking you out at all? No? You're okay? Ooh, that's nice. And this is so much, so like with my sides of my head shaved, I'm always trying to make sure I get a certain line too. Now I can just shave it all off.
There you
I
go.
don't have to worry about it.
My husband just recently gave up on his hair, so he's got like a shaver that he holds in his hand, and then he just rubs it
I've
all over his
seen
head.
those.
So
Does it work really close?
He has to do it like every other day though, but
Yeah,
he gets it
so-
close though. Because his hair grows like a weed. But
It doesn't really look that bad, does it?
nah.
What's
Like
that?
I said, you got a good shaped head, so
Thank you.
yeah.
I mean, it's something obviously you have to get used to. It's not like terrible, right?
No.
All right, so I'm in my car now. So obviously I'm not wearing my wig, and I just had my head shaved. And one of the things that I'm doing for myself, you know, like a lot of what I'm doing this whole thing for is to kind of help other people, but it's also for myself too. And one of the things that I am doing for myself is making myself go ahead and you know, go throughout the rest of today anyway without the wig. It's definitely not something that I don't want to walk around like this all the time. I do prefer to have hair on my head. But this part is good for me. An acceptance of what I've done and who I am, and all that kind of, you know, crappy weird shit. So I am going to go tan right now because you know, obviously there's parts of my head that are not as tan as the rest of me, so not that it's going to even out right away, but we're going to go ahead and go tanned. And then tomorrow I will be putting my wig back on. But for today, this is me. And there's nothing wrong with it. Hey there. So, it's been a couple days And I'm doing one little extra piece to this before I go ahead and publish it. I wasn't really sure when I wanted to publish it. I had was thinking about waiting for a little bit, but what I've come to find out is that I really don't mind the bald head. I like, hair better. I think it looks better. Um, but you know, I kind of was worried that like once I had done it, that if I walked around my house or something, if I caught sight of myself in the mirror or whatever, I'd be like, oh, you know, and that's not happening. And in fact, especially when my eyes are all nice and bright because of the light, it looked kind of pretty, I think. Um, yeah, so I'm not minding it. I'm kind of like forgetting that I don't have hair. So there's been a couple times. This is, I did this a few days ago, and there's been a couple times that I've actually just been like, ah, screw it, and I'll go out and about without the wig on, and it's been interesting. For all the things that people stare at me for, a bald head has not been one of them, and that's kind of interesting. So. Whatever, it hasn't been that bad. Um, and in fact, it kind of I'm happy I did it. I am. And again, besides the fact that, trying to be helpful to other women and stuff, for me, this is a really, really big thing for me. Um, and I kind of feel like as I've been going on with some of these self-discovery things, that I have been, it's kind of like I come across something that I don't like about myself, whether it's something that I find uncomfortable, or I don't know, maybe um, the way I did my makeup. I don't know, whatever, anything. I come across something and it's this layer, and I peel that layer off, and what's underneath is all fresh and new, and I like the way it looks, and, and whatever, you know what I mean? And this has kind of been like that again. I peeled off another layer. I didn't like what was going on underneath my wigs. It was something that made me feel very self-conscious and anxious, and I got rid of it. And I'm happy about that. And I don't know if that makes it look, better to me or not, but I kind of like look at it like this beautiful thing, and who knows, maybe it's not because I find it to be actually pretty, but maybe it's the situation I find pretty. I don't fucking know, but I like it. So um I'm happy I did it, and I hope that this is, helpful in any number of ways. And again, if anyone wants to get a hold of me about, to talk more about what I came across, what I know, what I think I know about how I might have been able to like save my own hair, during the whole steroid process. Let's talk about it. I'm not an expert; it's just what I've come across. But I'd be happy to share. As I always am. I'm happy to share. Whatever I do know or what I think I know, and I'll be honest about the difference between the two. So if you have any questions for me, put the comments below, or you can go to my website, boss.bitch.x.com, and use the contact button to send either a form or email or whatever. And those will be the fastest ways to get a hold of me. But if you want to follow me, boss.bitch.x on Instagram. Um, and well, I was gonna say that I'll be putting these, my podcasts out more regularly, but I can't promise that. I've been pretty busy, so I'm actually going back to Vegas here soon. I can't wait. So anyway, I'm out of here. The end of this little chapter story, whatever, and life goes on. So um, I'll talk to you soon.